Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're listening in from. I'm here with Tom Barnett, Senior Vice President and Divisional General Counsel at UnitedLex. Hi, Tom.
Morning.
It's morning for you, very early.
A little bit early, yeah, out here in California.
So Tom developed an industry-leading 20-person data science team at Paul Hastings, which was acquired in June by UnitedLex. And we're here to talk about the development of that team, the evolution of that team, and its acquisition by UnitedLex, what the plans are now, and a little bit about what that might mean in terms of other law firms developing their data science capability. We've only got half an hour, so I'm going to very much leave the talking to you. But I'm grateful for you joining us today. So thank you for coming on the show. I thought it'd be really helpful to talk about your background first. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself a little bit and talking about, because you got before developing the data science team, you obviously started in Cromwell. So I thought it'd be great if you could tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So I started out programming computers as a young kid at about 10 or 11, and but eventually went into law and was a litigator. And in the course of being a litigator, we started to see more and more that the data that we were looking for in discovery was less in paper and more digital form. So that really evolved into the whole, what's called Ediscovery now, or digital discovery. And I really found that interesting because of my background in computers, and it was a logical fit. So eventually, after practicing law for about 7 or 8 years, I joined the first Ediscovery company as general counsel, and also running some of different operations. And I really found that it was something I felt I was born to do, because it combined two things I really love: the law and technology. And eventually, after being in the startup world for a few years, I joined Sullivan & Cromwell and built what I think is the first dedicated technical team to work on e-discovery and compliance. And we had a lot of success with that. Kind of went back into the startup world. And about 6.5 years ago, I joined Sullivan & Cromwell. I joined Paul Hastings, not Sullivan & Cromwell.
We knew what you meant.
Yeah. I didn't join Sullivan & Cromwell twice. Paul Hastings, and we wanted to kind of revamp and update the discovery function. But at the same time, I suggested that a lot of advancements had taken place in computer processing and machine learning and artificial intelligence, and that we could gain a strategic advantage by taking advantage of those in the legal industry. These advances had taken place in the larger information economy, and even in the traditional economy, and banking and pharmaceuticals and so on. And I felt there was a gap between what had happened in the rest of the economy versus legal, and that gap could be an advantage for us. And the firm was very excited about that, and that's what led us to build the team, the data science team.
Thank you. And so tell us more about that team. So you obviously, I think it ended up being 20 people. I've read two different things, 20 and 25. What size did it end up being?
It was about 20 people.
So that's what was acquired by UnitedLex team.
Yes.
So tell us more about, so obviously, did you focus exclusively on e-discovery?
At first, that was our first focus. So we had really two functions. One is the standard traditional e-discovery function that's required in litigation and investigations. That was our primary mission at first. But at the same time, I brought on a PhD data scientist and mathematician, Daniel Krasner, who helped us both do the e-discovery work in a unique way by developing proprietary tools and using machine learning, advanced machine learning techniques, both for e-discovery, but also for other things like analyzing contracts and just different problems that we'd solve. So we weren't exclusively limited to e-discovery, but that was our core function.
Okay. And tell me how you, so it became quite broad. Tell me how you, we will come on to talk more about now, but I think it's really fascinating to unpick some, what you've done within Paul Hastings before we move into present day. So how did you work? I mean, it's very early doors, wasn't it? So we're seeing some, like, I think when we spoke before, I told you that Chance started developing its own data science team. Actually, they've moved on to do their own thing. There's a firm in the UK. I know there are other firms, but you were pretty ahead of the curve, right?
Yeah, well, we started.
It was the first data science.
I think so. I mean, I think so. It was 6.5 years ago, a little bit more
Yeah.
than 6.5 years ago. And our team had the name data science in it. And we had real data scientists and computer programmers in the team. One of the things, and it wasn't the whole team, but it was a core part of the team. So one of the things that I think differentiated us back then, and even now to some degree, although I can't speak for every law firm out there, um, was that we weren't just licensing software and trying to use it or working with the developers. We were actually coming up with proprietary technology using the most advanced techniques available. So
Yeah.
that was 6.5 years ago. A lot has happened in 6.5 years, but I think what made what we did unique in the acquisition by UnitedLex was the fact that a big part of it was not only the team and the expertise, but also the technology that we developed.
And you're able to talk a little bit. I know you've obviously won some awards, and there's a lot of stuff that's in the public domain. You're able to talk about a couple of examples of the specific products that you developed.
Sure, sure. So one of the things we felt was lacking in the market was the ability to find information when you really don't have a big starting point.
Mm.
A lot of people are familiar with predictive coding in Ediscovery, where you review a bunch of documents and code them for responsiveness or for certain issues, and you come up with a large set, and then you make a model based on that set, and that's a useful exercise. We actually developed our own version of that, which we can talk about if you like.
Yeah.
But the thing that we thought was missing was what happens when you have a short period of time and very little data to start with. You don't have time to review 1,000 documents or even 500 or 1,500, but you need answers to questions fast. So what can you do when you have 3 documents or 1 document, or maybe you don't have any documents? So we developed something that we called key document identification, KDI, that really helped us a lot in those areas. And we felt was very groundbreaking and very useful in our cases.
And was that working? So working quite closely with the lawyers, obviously within the firm.
I'm sorry,
Can you? Sorry, apologies. That
Yeah.
That was done working quite closely with the lawyers in the firm to work.
Yes. Our philosophy wasn't that we were going to create a piece of software that just kind of works on its own.
Yeah.
You just turn it on. The whole philosophy for us in the technology was that the best way to utilize AI technology is an interaction between the humans and the technology. It's not technology replacing humans.
Yeah.
So I personally don't even really prefer the term artificial intelligence, because if you look at the history of that, it really goes to trying to replicate the human brain and kind of replace it in a way. And it's certainly a very interesting exercise, but I think what we do is more akin to intelligence augmentation.
Right.
And that's something that was also conceived around the same time as the beginning of artificial intelligence. A guy named Douglas Engelbart, who was part of the Xerox labs, came up with this idea of intelligence augmentation at the same time that folks like Marvin Minsky were coming up with artificial intelligence. But I think even though it's not as sexy and exciting, that intelligence augmentation is really more what we're doing and more what the state of the art really is right now.
And then, so let's move on to the, when did you start talking to UnitedLex? How did the acquisition come about?
Well, it's interesting. In the course of building the team at Paul Hastings, over the years, I was working with, of some, what I think are amazingly entrepreneurial people within the firm. Particularly, I'd like to mention Greg Nitzkowski,
Yeah.
who's the vice chair of the firm. And, you don't normally associate innovation and trying new things with law firms. That's not the normal association, at least big, large law firms like ours, top premier law firms. But
Yeah.
Greg and other folks at the firm really did allow us to try new things and push what we were doing. And so that right there made things different. But one of the things we talked about after a couple of years, 2-3 years, Greg said, look, this is really great and it's helping us, but a law firm is never going to be a platform for licensing software or really sustaining innovation. So it's great for the firm. We're really teaching our young lawyers how to interact with technology, and it's useful, but it's never really the ultimate platform. So both for the firm and for our development and what we could do, Greg really saw the vision of eventually splitting it off if someone was interested. So that really started years ago as something in the back of our minds. And then about a year ago, when we were having a lot of success with what we were doing, I started just casually talking to people about whether they might be interested. And there was a lot of interest. So that really triggered the process in full force back in, let's say, last September. And we actually had several organizations that were interested in acquiring us and went through a very detailed process. And eventually we felt that UnitedLex was the best fit for a number of reasons, which we can talk about.
Yeah, let's do that. It's interesting that there's a process. It doesn't surprise me. But yeah, so tell me, so why? What made you think that UnitedLex was a good fit?
Well, UnitedLex also has a tradition of innovation and pushing the limits and trying new things. It does e-discovery, but it's not just an e-discovery provider. And they really have focused on what we call digital legal transformation, which is really taking the whole practice of law, whether it's in a law department in a company or in a law firm, and really taking full advantage of the technology and the processes that can make it more efficient. So that's something that has interested me for my whole career, even though I didn't really have a name for it. So it was really exciting to find that a company was founded on that principle. They also have developed a lot of their own technology. They've got a great vision for the future. They've done exciting work. They're backed by the third largest private equity company in the world. So they really have a vision and a strong mission. And once I met the folks, just loved everybody and felt it was a great fit for the team. And that's proven to be true.
And what was it? So they obviously acquired. So what? Forgive me if this sounds a strange question, but what exactly did they acquire? So they acquired the team and the tech, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, the team and the technology. Yeah.
Okay. And then how does it? So now it work. How does it work now in terms of? So obviously UnitedLex owns the team; they've acquired it, but you still have an ongoing relationship with Paul Hastings.
Right. So we still work with Paul Hastings. A lot of the team, not all of the team, but a lot of it is dedicated to Paul Hastings. So we still provide them with the services we did before, just under the banner of UnitedLex. So there's continuity there. One of the driving philosophies and decision-making points for the firm for Paul Hastings was that they would still be able to get the same level of surface and continuity and have everything the way that they've come to like it. So that's a big part of what we do, but we're also obviously able to offer a lot more resources. I mean, we're part of a company with thousands of people across the globe. So we can offer collection and document review in many different countries and data hosting and processing, as well as a whole suite of other services that we never have even thought of offering because we're 20 people, not 3,000 or whatever.
And they've made that clear. And they've said that there's going to be investment in the team, that they're going to expand it. So what is the roadmap now? Tell us a little bit about what you're going to be working on.
What we're going to provide to the law firm?
What's the, I suppose the best way of expressing it would be, so what's the roadmap now?
I'm sorry, say that again?
It's my English accent.
Okay. Use the microphone. Just put a little closer.
What's the roadmap now?
Oh. Okay.
What are your plans in terms of growth, development, investment by UnitedLex, etc.?
Sure. Well, one of the things that Greg at Paul Hastings had thought about for us is taking what we've done and being able to offer it to other law firms and other companies. So we think we've got a lot of groundbreaking technology and processes. So part of what we're doing is expanding that to other organizations. But I think, and that's very important to us. But another big part of the picture is taking our technology and putting it into the AI and machine learning technology that UnitedLex has already been developing. So they have various platforms. They have an investigative platform called Questio, and we're hoping to incorporate some of our AI technology into that. They also have another large platform for legal issues in a broader sense than Discovery, called Vantage. So we're really blending what we did with their larger platform. And the tech team actually no longer reports to me. They're part of the larger tech organization at UnitedLex. And there's a very experienced guy named Sean Jennings, who's had successful startups and a real innovator in technology, who's now taken over the leadership of the tech team that we built at Paul Hastings.
And there's no overlap, or is there much overlap in terms of the technology that you've already developed in UnitedLex existing tech stack?
I think they're really complementary. One of the things, being at a law firm, we just by naturally, we had certain constraints in what we could develop. We weren't a tech company. We didn't have that kind of budget, but we had very brilliant people who were able to develop technology nonetheless. But we weren't trying to recreate discovery platforms or existing things. If something exists and it works, that's fine with us. We tried to hit the areas where there wasn't anything. So, for example, the tech that would find information when you don't have a sparse data set, or situations like identifying code words that are being used by people. You can't search for that, or answering specific questions, or in the contract space. There's a lot of technology now that's good that identifies the different provisions in a contract. Here's the change of control provision, here's the assignment clause, here's limitation of liability. But what the tech doesn't do that well, or didn't, was really, nice dog. Cameo appearance. What the existing tech didn't do was really do that next level analysis of, okay, there's an assignment clause, but what does it really say? How is it defined? Does it require assignment be in writing or verbal? Is there a time limit, and so on? So we developed technology that would take the next level of contract analysis. So that worked well for us, because if something already existed, we didn't want to recreate it. So we attacked problems that weren't solved before. But by doing that, we don't really conflict with all of the innovative things that UnitedLex has done.
And will it be, I think from my experience so I've spoken to a couple of data science teams within law firms, and one of the advantages they have is that day-to-day contact with the lawyers and really spotting the use cases, like for the reasons that you say, like you don't want to reinvent the wheel, but by being with them day in, day out, they can kind of work out where the gaps are. How will it work now in terms of the way that you're going to work with law firms? Will it be kind of ad hoc, or how do you envisage it working in terms of the way that you continue that work of kind of look at the gaps, if not very technical way of expressing it, but
sure.
How will it work now?
It's true. It's a good point. One of the things that really worked well, and why we were able to attract the tech talent that we have and now have with UnitedLex, in addition to their talent, was that we had a lot of a flow of data and cases to work with. That's one of the things that's difficult for people doing this work. But in a premier law firm, the kind of cases we worked on, there was a constant flow and a lot of data and a lot of problems to solve. So we had that, and that helped us develop. And the interaction with the legal teams was a big part of it. But so that's still going on. So we're still working very closely with Paul Hastings. And in fact, we have a dedicated team for Paul Hastings. So that work still exists in that way. And those people that are only working on Paul Hastings data, we can still apply the technology that we've developed or the additional technology from UnitedLex. So that still exists. What's exciting in the larger sphere is now we have a broader platform. So instead of only the whole larger tech team only working with one law firm, now we work with many law firms and many companies. So we have a bigger set of problems and a larger array of data sets to work with.
And presumably, because you were limited within Paul Hastings as to what you could achieve, and presumably you're able to achieve more for law firms outside of the law firm environment.
Yeah, well, I would say that for being in a law firm, Paul Hastings was amazing.
Yeah.
Because no other law firm that I'm aware of has developed, world-class AI technology at the level that the third largest private equity firm and the leading legal technology firm wanted to acquire. So I'm extremely proud of what we were able to do and the team. but it is a law firm. So a law firm's never going to have the kind of budget to develop that a tech company would.
Yeah.
So I think it was amazing, both what the team and the law firm allowed us to do. And I mean that, given the normal constraints of a law firm, but now we're in a tech firm. So we can do even more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, so for law firms now, talking more generally, do you think for law firms thinking about building their own data science team, do you think that, I suppose there's different, there's kind of, COVID has inevitably put a bit of a brake on innovation. Is that your observation? Do you think that law firms are now, in terms of my observation is that they are very much sitting, being very careful for obvious reasons with cash, and that they are looking at core technology, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in terms of the way they innovate going forward.
Yeah, I think there's two sides to that coin. So on the one hand, obviously, law firms are concerned about cash flow, as is almost every business. Now, not everyone, maybe, but a lot of businesses now, and law firms certainly are worried about the future, and hoping the economy gets revved up again and starts thriving. So that's true. But on the other hand, nothing drives innovation more than necessity. So I would say this whole thing has also created a lot of innovation and brought up the need for better solutions, including how people interact. Litigators aren't going to court right now for the most part, so they're having to work through other technology to allow that to happen. So I think it's actually an amazing time of innovation, and for people who can take advantage of that, there's an incredible opportunities out there, because this is the most dramatic turn of events that affect everything, but including how we practice law, and that certainly happened in my lifetime.
And actually, as firms look towards creating more efficiencies, the ones with the vision will see that inevitably improving the process of their technology will enable them to maintain margins where they're going to be squeezed. I think that we're already seeing more pressure from the client side.
Yeah, I agree. And our work, both with legal departments and law firms, a lot of what we do at UnitedLex is very process-driven and technology-driven, and trying to do things more efficiently. Yeah. So for us, from our perspective, there's never been a better time to innovate and to offer solutions, because there's such a strong need out there.
Do you work with, I'm sorry, I should know this, do you work with the corporate sector? Obviously you work with law firms. Is the plan very much to work with other corporate legal teams?
Yes. So UnitedLex has a very extensive practice with corporate law departments and law firms. Yeah. Our
but
work
for your team, so you're going to
sure.
mirror that, as it were.
Well, yes, but I mean, if you look at it, even at the law firm, our team is servicing the law firm clients. Yes. So the team, the previous Paul Hastings team, was serving the large corporate client base of Paul Hastings. Yeah. And some of, as I said, some of that team is still dedicated to that. And other parts of the team that have gone into different areas are servicing the larger business. So my role is still, I'm still, paying a lot of attention and making sure things are going well at Paul Hastings, but I obviously have a broader scope looking at it to work with other corporate law departments and law firms.
And who do you think is driving innovation? There's always that. It's really interesting over the years. So I've been writing about the legal sector a long time, and a long time ago, it was the law firms. I think the clients were in the backseat, and then there came a point when the clients have really sort of, particularly with the growth of legal operations, they've really started to grow into their role, and they've been driving the legal ops team, driving innovation. But where do you see? Is it possible to say which bit of the sector you think is driving innovation, or is that too simplistic?
No, I think it is. I agree with you that it's largely driven by by client need, and law firms, try to be very reactive to that. That's kind of where the ideas come from. I think when law firms try to just come up with solutions on their own, absent what the clients are asking for, there's a lot of risk there, because you don't know whether someone will use it or not. I think that's true of anything, even at a technology firm like ours, technology services firm. We have to be responsive to what the clients are asking for and needing. Now, we may come up with innovative ways of providing that, or things they didn't think of. But if any innovator operates in a bubble, it's probably not going to be as successful as really understanding the need and identifying it and then trying to meet that. Otherwise, you might get lucky and come up with something people want, but you could spend a lot of time and effort with things that people aren't really asking for.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So what can we look out for from you? Let's sort of look forward a little bit. I mean, so it's so what can we look for from you over the next sort of few months?
Well, I think we're really integrating the technology that we've created with all of the suite of tools that UnitedLex has, and we're I think the team that we brought over in itself is very innovative, not only from the technology standpoint, but from the process and service level standpoint. So it's really exciting to be integrating the teams and having them learn from each other. So I think that's a big part of what we're doing now in the short term. And so really bringing really creative people together who are interested in providing service and technology, and just you know creating something that's more than the sum of the parts.
And so we with I think with any dip, that's it. COVID's more than a dip, but I think we're going to no doubt see an increase in litigation. I would have thought, as you do in this kind of market, whether it be a recession or this is obviously far more dramatic. So I think for a lot of the technology that we've written about for the last, I'd say, 2 years, has been very heavily contract based. There's been a lot of advances in contract management, and Ediscovery actually has been, it's almost ahead of its time, isn't it? And I think there's almost not been enough focus. Perhaps that's just me. I haven't focused enough on Ediscovery recently. Do you think that's going to be Ediscovery there's been technology in Ediscovery that I think within the contract market they're claiming is new, and it's not new, right? We've seen it, recognized, whoever it is, that there's been this technology that's existed for a long time. Do you think there's now going to be a big focus on Ediscovery? You've focused on it for a long time anyway, but do you think there's going to be a renewed sense of Ediscovery coming into the limelight, and what can we look for?
Yeah, I think Ediscovery is something that started earlier and became more advanced than the other areas, which are now, I will say, all those other areas are becoming increasingly important, whether it's contract management, or we do a lot of work in UnitedLex with IP analysis and monetization. So in one level, I think there's a great expansion of the areas that the technology can cover. Ediscovery is interesting because it's really, the world of litigation is kind of a battlefield. So, you become battle tested and going through different cases and getting challenged. And, often the other side is trying to, attack everything you do. So you learn how to explain things and defend them. So there's a level of, kind of forced innovation and really being able to withstand scrutiny that occurs in litigation. So I think that's why it's in the kind of the front line on innovation. And I think that still continues in some way, because there's when you're doing a corporate deal, the goal is, kind of for everybody to be happy. You want the deal to work out well and both sides are happy and the deal doesn't blow up or fall apart for some reason, or no problems in the drafting. But it's basically aiming towards a happy ending. When you have litigation, you could look at it as a zero-sum game. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. Maybe you settle, but so it's a tougher environment to work in, and I think it demands more innovation, in the sense that people are very actively wanting to spend less money. Nobody gets excited about a litigation. It's like, oh, great, let's go spend a bunch of money discovering documents. So there's always pressure on reducing costs and doing things more efficiently. Yeah. And fortunately, some great technology out there that we can apply to help achieve those goals. And I think, to me, bringing what's the best of what's out there in the larger world to litigation, investigations, and e-discovery is still very exciting and still a great opportunity.
I'm gonna have to stop there. I'm sorry. I'd love to have longer, but it's been we've run out of time, unfortunately. But I just want to say thank you very much for joining me, and it's been great chatting.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot, Caroline.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you.
Okay.